Okay, my friends, I found the best place to start is at the beginning or the end, so let's start at both. The beginning is they discovered a new organ in our body called the interstitium, which is the layer that we're going to be talking about that creates your health. They never realized it existed until 2018. Okay, this is big in the news right now, and this is important that we do this right away. All of these different, this is right from April of 2022, the VA announced that there's 9 rare respiratory cancers are now presumed service-connected when you're around these burn pits. Everything in your lung, your trachea, all of these things are being invaded, your bacteria. And they say they are doing research and they want experts, and I feel that I am as expert as anybody in this now, understanding the role of the bacteria. Now, what am I just making spouting off? No, I want to see some studies, and I know exactly the studies to do that will tell us what bacteria resides in what tissues, in what kind of acidic and salty conditions and so forth, and what organs have what kind of specific bacteria is living in their interstitium. The interstitium is the layer that supports that particular environment, whether it's salty or acids or whatever it is. And I have looked at this very, very, very carefully. And if your stomach and your intestines are giving you any kind of distress whatsoever, it means that you're not digesting correctly. Your digestive system is not working. That means more than likely your bacteria that is supposed to do that chemistry of breaking everything down. And there is 10 times more bacteria than there is you inside of you. You're only 10% of the person you thought you were. Everything that happens in your body is chemistry. The only thing that does chemistry is the bacteria. That's it. And that's why radiation kills the bacteria, sun kills the bacteria in your skin, you get skin cancer. These toxins kill the skin cancer, everywhere in your body. These guys were really in trouble, these service members. And there was a lot of women involved in this, there was a lot of men involved in this, and there was a lot of people that live in that area involved in this. They should be helped too. This is not right what they did. Let's just forget about that for now. Let's just see if we can get these people healthy. And that's what they're saying they want to do. And my friend now, who I am working with, is with the Department of Veterans Affairs. He's with the disabled vets and helping them through the system of creating the paperwork and so forth to get compensation, to get treatment. And I'm going to dedicate another, I'm going to make a whole section about this for burn pit victims and health in general, but primarily towards the burn pit victims. And there's going to be a lot of information from my friend David about how they proceed. Step 1 is get a hold of your advisor. Step 2, do this. Step 3, call this guy. Step 4, step 5, on and on and on. Because I guess it's quite a procedure. But if you don't do it right, you're not going to be taken care of right. And these are, I'm going to tell you right now, if you were around this stuff, you have to get your health system back in action. You are, I don't care who you are, it may go away enough to where, like it says, they go away after 4 or 5 weeks or something, a couple of months. You should not have all these symptoms anymore. But you may not be dying, but you're probably still going to have a smaller amount of inflammation and problems. And we should be calling these people, healthcare, and ask them to let us do this study. Let us do this study. Help us with this study. We don't have the resources to do this. I want to see what bacteria lives in what areas in the body, and when they come back from these burn pits, what bacteria don't they have in those areas. The bacteria is what protects you. You don't have it, you're done. Just read to you this, because this is what your health is, and this is why we're getting sick. With all that's known about the human anatomy, you wouldn't expect doctors to discover a new body part in this day and age, but now researchers say they've done just exactly that. They found a network of fluid-filled spaces in tissues that hadn't ever been seen before. These fluid-filled spaces were discovered in connective tissues, all over the body, including below the skin surface, lining the digestive tract, lungs, urinary system, surrounding muscles. They are the membranes. I'm going to show you these in great detail in a minute. Previously, they thought they were just a dense wall of collagen because by the time they looked at it, it was under a slide. But now they know this tissue is more like an open, fluid-filled highway with rocket ships going through there called flagella and bacteria. Now, the reason I got involved in this is because I know about that layer for 10, 12 years now. These are mud fossils. It's a new process of fossilization nobody's ever realized before. Soft tissues can become totally stone in certain conditions, and this is the conditions. And this is one where the coating, which is this membrane we're talking about, the interstitium, is completely gone. We are down into the alveoli. You see this? And the little blood vessels and everything. That's a lung. Now this one, in contrast, is completely coated with this fabric, which is this interstitium. You see this? It's coating the outside. This one is down to the inside. This one has all the coating surrounding it, which is this interstitium. This is the layer that protects you. If there's a hole through that and all the rest of your body fluids can penetrate and get into your lung, you're going to get damaged. And the only reason I'm really deep into this. I know all the people that are involved in this, and I've been doing this 10, 12 years, understanding that this layer existed, and it wasn't understood by anybody else, because by the time they look at them, they put them under a microscope, you know, one of these other type of, I have a couple different types of microscopes, but the one that they use is like a little flat glass sheet and with a film over the top, and they look at just a flat, dried up little specimen, and they can see some of the structure, but they don't see this. They don't know they're fluid-filled highways. This is mud fossils. This is something I discovered 12 years ago, and as I'm having a hard time having to accept it, but that's not the point of this talk. This talk is what this layer does to protect you. Okay, my outstanding friends, I've been talking about this for quite some time now. Back in 2018, they put out this article, Meet Your Interstitium, a Newfound Organ. And really, it's the epithelium layer of its membranes. And the membrane they didn't realize was as complicated as it is. And the reason is, they were using, you see this here? This type of microscope. You see this one here? This is a telescoping microscope. That's what I use primarily. That one there you use for slides, really flat little, you know, dried up slides, and you don't see much other than, you know, a cell layer, you know, but this one here, this is the one to use. And what I'm going to be doing is showing you in a second. We're going to be looking down at some of these mud fossils. And I found back in 2010 or so, 2012, somewhere around there, that this layer of interstitium, which they call it now, was all over every one of my specimens. Like what you see right here, that's a lung, and that is a human lung. That's been certified human, tested with DNA, taken from deep inside. That's a bone head, and it had an actual scab on it with the fibrin and everything. This has all been very well looked into, and I have other ones that have been CAT scanned, DNA tested. This is a type of fossilization I never realized before. And I was originally going to call it fascia-facilitated fossilization because of that coating of fascia. But I ended up calling it mud fossil because they get encapsulated in mud. That's really what protects them. Some of them get completely stripped. Let me show you some stuff. Now check this out. This is the lung that's in here. Now this is when it first came out of the ground. This is another lung. This one's been DNA tested, CAT scanned. It's absolutely 100%, no question, it is a human lung. Now, on the back, you see how flat it is on the back? You see that, how flat that is? They all seem to have been in a flood. Now, whether it was just this area, I can't tell you for sure. But even a goose, that's a goose head. And the throat and everything is there. If you know how to look at the architecture of this basalt once it hardens up inside, but the outside is always feldspar. You see that side is flat. Same thing as the lung. They died, drowned, and I believe were cooked in a hot water flood, which preserved them. I'll explain all of this in great detail at some point, maybe not today. But this one actually had blood coming out of it. And there's the blood right here, the blood up in the top. You see that? These were little spots of blood here and there coming out of this lung. And that is a lung. Now, the lung, you see the alveoli, these little alveoli holes? That's these here. So what does that mean? That means that this lung had all of its pleura, which is the fabric out here, stripped away. And it's all the way back down to the alveoli. And it's still preserved because of the conditions it was in. Now, you can see the pleura is a rubbery bag, which is nothing more than what they call now the interstitium. You see it all wrapped around the outside? And that's what it was here. And at the bottom there's a red flap. And I took the blood out of here. And I drilled into there, so it wasn't just right off the surface. Now, I gotta show you something. This is kind of funny, but it's very cool. Check that out. That's another lung. This is a lung. This part right here is the pleura is stripped off. You see this? That's the pleura. And that's the tip of the lung, which is just like the other lung up here. All right, so it has some of the pleura on, and some of it's worn off and scrubbed away. Flat as a pancake on the back from a flood. And then I have other ones that are actually virtually pieces of meat. And this is what I call the interstitial flap. Well, hold on, let me show you that. Alright, what we're going to be looking at in the microscope is this particular, this is a tendon anchor. And there's the interstitium I will show you, and the black part is the inside, the really hard part, and that's the coating, the membrane, just like the lung has a membrane. Now, don't forget, this is a telescoping microscope. This is the kind here that they used that just made the little flat slides, and they had no clue about this layer. But I was seeing this layer in virtually all of my mud fossils, and I contacted Gil Headley, who is an anatomist, and this was 10 years or more ago, and we discussed this in great detail, and I fully started to understand what was going on. And then it mushroomed into all of this, fascia information about this being a fluid-filled highway. And now I understand that that fluid-filled highway is filled with bacteria which have flagellas on them, which are propellers. And they can go 100,000 RPMs, faster than a motorboat, bzz, right through your body. And they are the enzymes that are the chemistry sets that protect you. And they live in that lining which separates you from every bad thing. And you don't have the good bacteria living there, and you don't have that good collagens that, because I've got so deep into this, the chemistry, the anatomy, the physiology, the bacteria, the membranes, everything, as deep as you can go. And I now understand that your immune system is based on bacteria. That's all it does. Anything in your body is bacteria. That's the only thing that creates any chemistry that does anything. It breaks down your food. It kills your invaders. It breaks down your food so you can absorb it. It makes molecules. It creates osteoblasts, and I forget. There's a couple of different things to recreate your bone and make it grow as you grow. It takes care of all of the chemistry in your body. Is done by bacteria, and they live in this layer that is this brown layer, and they call it feldspar. They call that feldspar. It's not feldspar, that is membrane. You can call it feldspar if you want. They call it feldspar that wraps around this. And all these are is collagens. Collagens and keratins, and the fabric that creates life. Now we're going to look at this in a microscope, and you'll see the surrounding membrane that I was coming up with, and I'm thinking, everything's coated with this membrane, and it is. They just realized it, but it is. It always has been. But they always thought it was just a little flat, like film, but it's not. It's this spongy layer. Now let's take a look at it in a microscope. All right, this is that membrane layer that I'm talking about. You see these? You see this thickness here? This goes down the side. Let me see if I can move this around a little bit. You see, this is the center core of that. And that membrane completely surrounds it. You see it? That membrane is what they call feldspar. But it is collagens. And the thing of all this feldspar, 100%, 100% of feldspar is attached with aluminum. All right, the aluminum, it's aluminum silicates that create these. See the little holes and everything? I only have one arm, so I can't let go of this. I'll tell you, it's much better living life with two arms. My other one, I just can't move it. It's anyway. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of other issues more than mine. But anyway, you see how it coats everywhere? That is the interstitium right there. Boy, I got to get a shot of that. Hold on. This makes it very clear. I'll clear it up. Give me a second. There it is. You see that layer? That's the layer they're talking about. That's the connects right up to the basement layer. There's actually layer, and the lowest layer is the basement layer, where it actually has some vascular attachments. In between here is just a fluid-filled highway. And of course, there's the skin coats it, which is nothing more than the fascia. And then between the fascia, which is the mucosa. Well, let me show you the actual anatomical. Okay, here we go into the anatomy. Well, what are we looking at here? This is a mud fossil, and it's a fossilized layer of interstitium. The basal cells are here. These are the ones that attach to the lower innermost part of your body. You have skin, which you can call mucosa or skin on the outside. Then you get into the interstitium, and then the basal cells at the bottom, which is layers of the skin. Epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin, protects the body from the environment. Now, it protects it from the environment because it has to be soft, it has to have oils, it has to have all kinds of bacteria living there that fight off invading bacteria using enzymes and chemistry. We're going to talk about this in extreme detail. The thickness of the epidermis varies in different types of skin. It's only 0.05 millimeters thick on the eyelids and is 1.5 thick on the palms and the soles of the feet. That's called grip skin, or well, I call it grip skin. Other people call it friction skin. And it is just like a rubber pad and very thick. The epidermis contains the melanocytes, the cells which melanoma develops. This is very important to understand. This is where you have to get rid of these dead cells. The Langerhans cells involved in the immune system, right there, the Langerhans cells in the immune system in the skin, Merkel cells and sensory nerves that keeps you from having stimulated activity. The epidermis layer itself is made up of 5 sublayers that work together to continually rebuild the surface of the skin to keep protecting you. By the way, this is from the National Cancer Institute SEER training models, and this is about the layers of the skin, and here they are right here, and I just showed you in my own specimen exactly this, and this right here, my friends, is the layer of interstitium that they now have determined is a fluid-filled highway. They look like this. but they're all wide open, and the flagella of these bacteria can move so fast that you can deliver these agents anywhere in the body almost instantaneously. It's amazing, it really is. And this is the basal cell, is the bottom layer, way, way, way at the bottom, contains a cell called melanocytes, and melanocytes produce the skin coloring and pigment known as melanin, which gives the skin its tan brown color, helps protect the deeper layers of the skin from the harmful effects of the sun, and so forth. The basal cell is the innermost layer of the epidermis, okay? So, we have the innermost layer, then we have the interstitium, and then we have the mucosa. But we can go through this whole thing. They're talking about squamous cells and strata, and dermises and blood vessels and lymph nodes. I'm going to tell you what they're all made of and what they need and the different collagens that make them up. And there's some collagens are stiff, some collagens are real rubbery. And that's as simple as that. Some of them make glands that have oils, and some of them can't be near oils. Some of them are acidy, some of them are not. Collagens and elastins. Elastins is fabric, like I showed you, was coating that lung, if I showed you, but I think I did. This is the key takeaway. Everywhere you look, you're going to see collagen. It's always collagens. Collagen, 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 everywhere. That's the only thing. See, collagen fibers, collagen bundles, collagen layers, collagen tissues. 100% collagen, collagen cells. If you don't have those, you're in trouble. And I was just looking into a whole bunch of new stuff about refurbishing your body's immune system, which is this layer. And primarily this is going to be directed at veterans of wars where they had burn pits. And they were standing around these burn pits, inhaling all these toxins, which now they have diseases. And the reason is it killed their bacteria. The bacteria are supposed to be living in these areas. They're supposed to be loaded 100% with bacteria. If it's not 100% loaded with bacteria, you are ill. And the less bacteria you have, the more compromised your immune system is. It's more and more invadable. And if you don't have the right bacteria, you can't break down fats or carbohydrates or starches or sugars, and you won't get the nutrition you need. It's very simple once you understand the role of the bacteria in the body. And the bacteria work in this collagen layer. Okay, so don't forget now, I originally was going to call this fascia facilitated fossilization, because every one I found was coated with this membrane stuff. Now, look very carefully. See all these little tiny holes? Those are those fluid-filled pockets. Now, I'm going to bring the light over closer and closer and change the way you look at it and see it. You see, if you can see, the more reddish in here is where you're away from the mucosa more. And this is what it looks like in anatomical, okay? This is, the fluid-filled bags are basically right in here. The mucosa surrounds it, and inside, this is the basal layer, which attaches to whatever is underneath. It could be anything. It could be tendon, it could be an organ, it could be a muscle, it could be whatever it is, because there's a membrane on everything. Okay, if you can see in the microscope up here, this is the mucosa layer, which is the skin, or in the mucosa in this membrane. Just below that is the interstitium. This is that fluid-filled highway. You can see some pockets here and there. And then you have the basal layer, which attaches it into the lower tissue, whatever that happens to be. And again, this is it right here. So that top layer is the mucosa or skin or membrane sealing layer at the top, where mucus gets to keep all the stuff from getting in. And then you have all these little pockets. And then they don't show the basal layer, but the basal layer is at the bottommost part, and that works its way into the other tissue. And that's precisely what you have here. Okay, once again, this is the skin or mucosa, and that keeps all the stuff, slime keeps it away. It's mucus, pretty much coats that. However, things have to get in and out, especially in the intestines and so forth. Those layers and membranes are very, very sophisticated. Now, again, this is the basal layer down here. In between is the interstitium. So let's dig into the interstitium. Okay, my claim is that this is the interstitium, and it coats your whole entire body. And this is what I call the interstitial latch. I don't know if anybody else does. I do, because I have found it in my mud fossils, and I'll show you one in a second. But this is the tissue's type that is your fabric. It's the rubbery tissue that coats. This is probably from a lung, and it's probably right from that spot at the top of a lung. I'm not certain of that, but they do have one of those right there. It holds that organ in place, and this is one that is almost identical, and I'll show you that right now. All right, there it is, and there's that latch, which would have held this chunk of muscle, whatever this was. This is the muscle here, right here. Very, a lot of connective tissue in here. This is a very strong muscle. And that was very similar to this. Now this maybe not be a muscle, it could be. I don't know what it is. This could be a lung underneath, it could be some kind of organ, I don't know. But it is exactly identical, this latch. And I have found these in my mud fossils. This is not just fossils, this is biology that was missed, really, literally. This is not just the guesses. These excellent quality DNA sequences were obtained from a 36-inch tip sample I sent and the lung sample, the one I showed you, using these certain primers and so forth. And they came back Homo sapien mitochondrial, D loop, and B gene. And this is a certified test. They stand behind their results. And the only thing they want you to understand is that I took the samples out of these specimens and sent the samples. I didn't send the gigantic parts or the big lung or anything. But I went inside and took the blood out of it. It was excellent quality, and it was dense. And he said there was very, very little chance of any contamination. It was very, very dense and very good quality. And quite obviously, it's almost still bloody, and some of it really was still bloody. See this? I'm going to have a lot to say about this, because this goes way deeper than even this. There's a bone head, and you see these little holes and spots in here. Some of them are tendons attached, some of them are where nerves and blood vessels go forth. They call them bone foramen. Well, this is a bone foramen in a mud fossil. I don't think it came off of this one, but I can't remember. It was a long time ago. That is literally a scab. So I started looking at it. I'm looking at it careful. Sure enough, that's a scab. No question about it. So I'm looking around the edge, and I can see this white fabric. So I said, well, that's what scabs have. They have what they call fibrin. So I edged it to the side gently. And sure enough, what do we have here? Fibrin. That's the clotting fabric that is underneath your, next time you peel off a scab, take a look at it, that's it. And guess what fed that blood? These two holes. You see this hole here? And that hole here? You see it runs out of here, and then you get to see the red. You see this one running out of here, and you got the black, red, and black. That's oxygenated blood, the Fe2O3, which has 3 oxygens, and this is Fe2O2. The vein blood is going to get sucked back up to the heart and the liver, the kidneys, and all that, and get cleaned up again. And then it just keeps going around and around and around. So, what have I just shown you? I've just shown you that rocks bleed, and they can get very, very bloody. All right, let's just sum it up this way. This fabric is your membranes. That's where that interstitium is, and that's it right there. This happens to be where it locks into another bone, into another system, another organ, or another part of your body. So everything is anchored together, and it all comes back to where it's supposed to be because of these latches, and then because of these balls and straps I'll show you in a second. However, if you cut a hole in that, you're down into this meat. You're down into where the guy's body is. This is slime. This keeps everything away so they can't get into you. Once it's into you, you're invaded. And that's why these people have pre-existing conditions. This is primarily what I'm talking about today, is this layer. Because this is your protective layer in your body. So it's not just discovering a new organ system or discovering a new fossilization process or whatever. This is health. And this is specifically designated towards, or whatever you call it. It's to try to help the people from the burn pit. Because this is what happens. The bacteria that was living in here, I don't care where it is in their body, that bacteria is going to be getting killed. They're inhaling it. It's going through their interstitium. It's getting into their lungs, their hearts, their kidneys, their livers, their nose, their throat, digestive tract, killing all of the bacteria, or at least assaulting it to where it can't really protect you. So you're always in a state of inflammation, unhealth, digestive issues, acid reflux, gas, bloating, weight gain, dizziness, all kinds of issues because you're not getting the proper nutrition and you're not being able to fight off the invaders. It's basically as simple as that. This layer, if you don't have it intact and in perfect health and populated with your army of guys, you have an army of guys. And I'll show you where they live, and I'll tell you what they do, and I'll tell you exactly how they do it. Alright, so here is the layer that we've been talking about. Now, mucosa simply means the surface. Don't think about it like it's inside the body. It can be. It can be, it's the outer layer of a membrane. So if the membrane's inside you, protecting your organs or your throat or your lungs or your kidneys or your urinary tract or your digestive system, all of that stuff has the same, it's just your skin turned inside out. However, your skin is nothing more than mucosa too. Your eyeballs, your ears, everything about you, every surface on your entire body, inside and out, surfaces, is mucosa. All right? How does it protect itself? It can't get real dry and cracky and broken apart. It has to be some form of lubricants to keep it oily and supple to some degree. What else does it do? It creates mucus, mucosa. What is a mucus? Mucus is a slime, literally a slime. So if you have toxins coming through you, toxins normally don't have flagella on them. Bacteria have flagella. A flagella is a propeller. A flagella is a propeller. And those little buggers go right through your body 1,000,000 miles an hour because they, let me show you what a bacteria is. And they are just saturated in here. And every single bacteria of thousands and thousands of species creates one single product. And that product is so unbelievably elegant that it's a chemistry set. And I mean of the highest order. Alright, this is what a bacteria creates. They create this thing, which is just exotic as hell. And they create it every single time the exact same copy. That's all they do. A bacteria creates one specific product to create one specific molecular interaction. And it creates millions of breakdowns and reconfiguration of molecules in just a few seconds. It's unbelievable how fast this does its job. It's called nucleophilic substitution. There's leaving groups and entering groups, and they're invaders. They invade and they push the other guys out of the way. Extremely fast. So don't forget, this is what a bacteria creates. Well, what does a bacteria look like? A bacteria looks like this. All right, and there's that flagella. And this is literally a motor. You look up what a flagellum looks like, and it's 100,000 RPMs these things spin. And that's your payload. And they know how to attack, and they attach by what's called magnetotactic arrangements. And when I say magnetotactic, why am I talking? Because this right here, at the tip of each one of these tips is going to be a plus or a minus. They don't end up being nothing out there. So you're going to have plus minus, two plus minuses, a plus over here, two minuses here, a plus plus plus. The bacteria with its enzyme, so elegantly constructed, comes up and goes bang, and locks in with its magnetics, squirts it out and kills the invader. Or it brings some other mucus or whatever it is to deliver. And they have seen this. Alright, this is only a couple of years ago. They just came up with a new way to watch inside the cells. Never knew this was happening before. And this is Gokul, and he's one of the researchers.
Something I will never forget. The hair on my hands just stood up. It's a microscopic universe within each cell.
This is an unprecedented view of the cellular world, where we can actually see immune cells scooping up sugars in the ear of a zebrafish in real time.
Alright, what you just saw is what is in this interstitium. That's the interstitium. Saturated with these bacteria. They go around and grab what they need. They go squirting out there to deliver. This could be mucus. This could be some kind of toxin. But this guy is the delivery agent. And this all happens from bacteria. And they found that there's three types. One of them senses for the environment as maybe there's an invader. Then they alert these guys to do the delivery. And they also send out enzymes and catalysts to break down your food and all that business.
Real time.
Focusing only on the crawling immune cells, we've noticed two classes of them. One was not hungry at all, but it was very active in terms of trying to figure out, what the environment is. There's another one that was kind of slouching around with a lot of food in its belly. We can actually conceptualize and visualize and analyze the contents of each of these cellular compartments in this crawling immune cell.
All right, you can come up and watch this. It's called Your Textbooks Are Wrong. This is what cells actually look like. Okay, my friends, it's all come to a head. I have been studying the immune system of the human body for a very long time. And it is composed of the layers of the skin. And not only the skin on the outside of your body, but the skin on the inside of the body. The skin on your eyeballs, the skin inside your ears and your nose and your throat. All the skin coatings that coat your organs, and all of the different ducts and tendons and muscle, all of those things have a membrane around them that they now call the interstitium. And here it is right here. It's a fluid-filled highway. They still didn't understand it when they wrote this, but within the last couple of years, they now understand that the bacteria in your body create enzymes, and the enzymes can run through here a bazillion miles an hour because they're inside the bacteria, and the bacteria carry that chemical package to damage sites and kill the things because of this extreme chemistry. If you do not have the correct bacteria in your body, you will be sick. You won't be able to digest your food. You won't be able to fight off invading bacteria. You won't be able to create mucus. You won't be able to create catalysts. You won't be able to assemble and reassemble bones and create marrow and stem cells. You have nothing because you don't have the correct immune system, which is one layer basically between you, your guts, and all of the things that move your blood and all of the things you don't want to get nasty into, and the nasty stuff on the outside. Basically, a lot of it is your skin. Now, these burn pit victims were invaded in every single possible way because they were just saturated in that environment. You cannot extract yourself from it. It's not like, oh, well, my heart didn't get damaged. When you see the list, or maybe I showed you, but if you see the list, it's just staggering. And it's true. And I would love to see this study done, and this is what I'm asking for. I'm a veteran. I should be able to speak about this. David, the guy I'm working with, he works with disabled American vets. He should be able to speak about this. We should be able to get some response about this. So this is what we need. It's like a 90-day study of people that are getting infused with a lot of probiotics and prebiotics and a couple extra little chemicals, very, very minor stuff, just normal things. and see if they get any better. If they do, we've got a plan to work on. And there is a very simple way of replacing the entire microbiome inside you, which is your autonomic immune system. Because the bacteria are the things that are immune. Those are the things that go out and do the work in you. If you don't have the correct bacteria in you, it's just not going to happen. Simple as that. And most people have been affected by primarily antibiotics. But these people with the burn pits, they've just been assaulted in every single possible way you can be assaulted. And they're never going to get better until they repopulate that bacteria. I don't think it's ever going to, they're just going to go on and on and on with festering health issues, which is not right. It's just not right. We can try this for almost nothing. But it shouldn't be up to the veteran to have to pay for that, and I'm sure that the Veterans Administration will, they're talking about doing deep research on this. I have as much research on this as anybody on the planet right now, because I've been deeply looking into it. I have 150-something thousand people that are on my channel, and I've been very, very sincere about trying to find out what helps and what doesn't, and they've been very, very sincere about their responses. And I think now I understand you need the chemistry, which is the collagen, bone meal and bone broth and all that stuff, all of those collagens and keragens, because they're all different, and they're all made by specialized cells. If you can extract that, which bone broth does. And I just fell on this not too long ago, just the other day actually, that would be an extremely good supplement because it's already organic. So you need that for this interstitium even to exist. Otherwise, it's not going to be nice and healthy and stretchy and gooey and all that. That's what that collagen does. And that's almost exclusively. I showed you collagen 500 times. And that's what this is. So now you got that. That's fine. It's like having a nice house and nobody lives there. Well, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to walk in there, and who knows? You need to populate that with the good bacteria. Once you do both things, you take on the chemistry you need, and then you fill that chemistry with the bacteria that resides there. I think you're off the case. That's what I've heard from almost everybody. All right, I just got this from my friend David, who was with the disabled vets. This is the steps to take for the VA healthcare to get yourself into the system. And everything is a system now. You can't just walk up there and say, okay, heal me. Now, you got to do your DD-214 and get a hold of these people, the nearest VA, and do what these steps. It's as simple as this, 1 through 7. That's it. This is all there was. Page 1 of 1. All right, so there it is. All right, I'm sure you can read that. All right, now, this is where it starts if you have serious complications. You may not even have to bother with this if the probiotics and so forth works. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't care what any law says, you are built of bacteria that live in your gut, and everybody else is too. And if one guy is healthy and the next guy isn't, it's almost certain that his bacteria is good and this guy is weak. Why? I don't know. But if he was near a burn pit, I would assume and presume, and this is what is called presumptive conditions. They say, well, we presume your condition is caused because you were in there. Exactly. So you were exposed to damaging toxins. That's why you have these issues. Now, if you can replace that bacteria, and which is gone, and there's one way that's almost foolproof, but it's not accepted. And that method is simply transferring the microbiome, which is all that bacteria, from a healthy, thriving, young person that has good teeth and has been healthy, hasn't got no digestive issues, nothing like that, into a good person. Simple as that. And then within days, everything starts to correct itself because that bacteria goes right to work, and I mean quick. Okay, this is an organ of some type. I'm not sure what it is, but this is that interstitium layer that is the big thick layer. And I believe it's a lung, but I can't be sure. It has a flat spot on the back, just like they all do. This is, I am sure, a lung. And you can see where the fabric has drifted away from the actual tissue of the lung. But again, flat as a pancake in the back. All of this stuff, I believe, was in a great flood, which was actually hot water, and parboiled it, and then when they all settled down, the real soft, fleshy stuff literally turned into mud. Literally mud. That's why we got so much mud and red clays. And all of the organs turned into stones. In this area, I mean, there's no question. Now, I'm going to show you this in a microscope, and you'll see this interstitium, and you'll see this feldspar, and let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here. This is the outside surface, which they call feldspar, which is the interstitium. Let me see if I can home up into that a little better. Well, you can see it's fabric. I'm going to put a little water on here, and then it'll stand out outstandingly. Now, you go down from there, you're in the interstitium. This is interstitium. There's blood coming out of here. And then from this interstitium, here is the basement layer, which is, hold on, I'm going to go the other way. Down there. That's the basement layer where this big layer tags in. Now you see what it is there. Here it is in the microscope. What we were looking at is the interstitium up here, I mean the mucosa really, and then the interstitium in between there, and then the basement layer. Now, I'm going to put a little water on there, and you'll see what a dramatic difference that will make. This stuff takes on water very, very quickly, and becomes very, very obvious what it was. Hold on a second. This is the water drying up. I mean, instantly dries up. And you can see the tissue layers now, what they look like. You see, that's the interstitium. And it's not much difference than it is when it's in the body. And there's the blood vessels. That whole layer down to the bottom, which is the basement layer here. And this is that fluid-filled highway when it was working. You see that? That's feldspar. Every one of these is coated with feldspar when it turns into a stone, because that's the protective layer. Again, I was going to call this fascia-facilitated fossilization, which that is fascia. And it does seem to, they come out in these coated bags. And this is from that other flat lung. You see this? This is from that other flat. You see the flat lung there? How flat that is? They're all the same way. And this one here, the pleura, this stuff here eroded back out of there. So you got part of the lung sticking out, and you got part of it peeled off. And then I have them totally eroded into this condition here, where you can still see the red blood is inside of there. But everything is completely gone. The alveoli are wide open. The pleura is completely, totally gone. But it's saturated with blood inside. See it?